We are live!
Welcome to the Uncle
Hell
Jimmy
yeah.
and Cousin Donnie show in year 2025
That was
How's
a
Cousin
great
Donnie
intro.
doing, man?
Great
Happy New Year.
intro. Well done on the intro, Jim. That was well done. What a great way to start the new year with the little staples on this Wednesday night.
Yep.
Cheers.
Cheers to
Welcome to the
Staples.
show. Welcome to the show, everybody. Thank you for joining us. Uncle Jimmy, Cousin Donnie show, sponsored by the Beacon Tap on this cold Wednesday night. Here with your two favorite guys.
Yes, right. Absolutely. There's no one better to be with than us. And
Yeah.
tonight's guest is very entertaining, Richie Hennessy. He is now, was a player, Hall of Famer, and now an umpire. And you know how I love umpires, Cousin Donnie.
There's very few people you love in this world more than umpires.
Yes. And that being said, is you think Richie Hennessy is ready for the questions I'm going to have to offer? You know, he's got the general questions, but
yeah,
we're going to have to talk a little umpiring tonight.
I figured you had some stuff lined up for him on the umpire side of things, and I've got one as well that I know he's gonna love. So
Okay.
I've got some things to chat with Richie about. I've known him a long time. I watched him play when I was younger, and then got the opportunity now to play while he umps, and some may say that's a good thing, some may say that's a bad thing. I like Richie when he umps because I pitch and he lets me throw the ball as high as I want.
Absolutely.
And we'll get into that for sure.
100%. And so before we even get over to Richie, I actually had a video that I wanted to play. A fan sent this video in. And this is something that I think is Donnie.
Live from the Hall of Fame, our boy Kevin Lundy's here. He has a little thing for Cousin Donnie. He came all this way to get a picture signed. Show the picture, Kev.
Donnie is stiff me, man. I come all this way, and I got to wait another 6 months to get this signature to put on my wall. So help me out, buddy.
So, Donnie, we have huge fans, and you stiffed us tonight. My boy Kevin is very disappointed.
So, our boy Kevin Lundy, he was
great.
so disappointed, dude. He wanted me to play that tonight on the show. Went to the Hall of Fame to see you and got stiffed. So, Donnie,
I thought we were over this.
What's your response, Donnie?
Kevin, I'm so sorry. Kevin, I will fall on my face again for you any day of the week so you can be entertained. But next time I see you, we'll definitely get that autographed or whatever you like with that photo. Great fan, great support. Funny enough, had another guy come up to me today and say, "Hey, where do I recognize you from?" And I was like, I'm all over the place, He's like, "No, I've seen you somewhere. Where do I know you from?" And he's like, "You're on that show." I said, "You're right. I am on a show." And he recognized me from this podcast, which was really funny. So
yeah,
it's
kind of a small world,
Yeah.
when that stuff happens. So let's get to the fans before we get to our guests. I want to say welcome to Joe Nixon, Big Mix in the house, D, Bill, Jim, Angela Feliciano, Mr. Perfect Game himself out there. Welcome. Our boy David Butterfield, Adam Olson, Lane Neiman, Bill, Jeff. Welcome to the Uncle Jimmy Cousin Donnie show, sponsored by the Beacon Tap. And now Mr. Signature Transportation Group. So thank you so much for Mr. Kevin Duff.
Yeah.
One of the things before we bring on Richie, what do you think tonight's going to get into?
I know Richie's got a lot to talk about in softball. He's been around the game for a long time.
Yep.
Knows a lot of people. Played a long time. I know he's a hell of a character. We've wanted him on the show for a while, and I know he has a flip phone and no social media, no laptop, no iPad, no nothing. So
Nothing.
it was a challenge, but we appreciate the support from Mr. Richie Battistoni and helping us get him on the show.
Yes, Mr. Richie Battistoni was able to meet with Hennessy this afternoon, and that's how we're bringing him on the show. So let's get over to him. Later tonight, we also have our first hot dog review.
We
So
do.
for those guests out there, Donnie and I are going to be going around the Chicagoland area on a week-to-week basis, and we're going to be reviewing hot dogs and giving grades on hot dogs. And I think it relates to our sport. You know, you go to a ball game, you eat a hot dog. So I think it's pretty entertaining. It will be.
Definitely. Ties back to the Chicago tradition, right? You go to Chicago, you have a Chicago style hot dog, and you watch 16-inch softball. Two things you got to do in Chicago.
Absolutely. So let's get over to Mr. Richie Hennessy here. Richie, welcome. Welcome to the Uncle Jimmy, Cousin Donnie show, Rich. How are you, sir?
I'm doing good. Thanks, guys, for the invite. Happy New Year to you guys and all the viewers tonight. And you forgot one thing already off the onset. No paper trail, Richie. Cash is king.
You got no smartphone, no iPad, no computer, no nothing. You're a difficult man.
I have some things, but like I said, it's best kept a secret right now.
Yeah.
You guys are too popular, and I already got in trouble already from something going viral last year. And I know you're going to ask me that later.
Oh,
Let's leave that alone right now.
It's on the list, Rich. It's on the list. And
I bet it is.
I reached out to the Birdman this afternoon to let him come on to get his revenge, but he respectfully declined and said he will get his revenge on his own interview later on this year. So
that's funny.
That'll be an episode you're going to have to look forward to, Rich.
Did you say Bird Brain or Bird Man?
No, let me pull it up, Rich, real quick.
The Birdman.
This is the man, the Birdman.
There it is. You're out. Fuck out of here.
And I'll tell you, Rich, you were on spot with you're out, and I saw the smirk on your face, and I think that's what made it all. So, congratulations on going viral in the most watched video in softball history. We're probably I think we're over 1.5 million views on that video.
Between those two videos, it's at like 1.5 million views.
Yeah.
All about making the game better. Hey, I can't see you anymore. Can you see me? I didn't see that video, whatever you just did. I can't see you right now. Can you see
we
me?
can see. Yep.
Okay, you can see me. Right now his phone's blank, so
that's fine. Yeah, no, we can definitely see you.
Okay,
so you're good. And so we're gonna get started right out of the gate, Rich. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, how you got into softball? Let the people know who you are. We have kind of viewers from all over the country, so give an idea on the background of Rich Hennessy.
Well, you had mentioned about how do you get your start in softball, and actually, it started like a lot of the guys, probably a lot of the viewers, and maybe yourself, and so forth. But it started with basically the neighborhood, okay, and started in 1976. That's when I played actually my first men's league softball. But mind you, back in my grammar school days, the 60s, and high school days of the 70s, we were introduced to softball at an early age. We played softball in gym class, no glove softball in gym class. High school, we played it in PE. So we were already playing. And then, Jimmy, like you and Donnie, we had family. Donnie, you had your dad pitching, playing ball. I remember umping you and your dad at your Nura, for example.
Right.
Okay? You grew up with softball at an early age because of your dad. Jimmy, same way with your father. In fact, your dad was the sponsor for us when he had the Dewdrop Inn in Cicero. He sponsored us several times for tournaments at Petrowski and at Clyde Park back in the late 70s, early 80s. So
let me stop you really quick right there, Rich. I want to actually send a tribute to my father. Today is the 14th year that he's been gone. So just wanted to throw that out there. He actually passed away 14 years ago today.
Wow.
So
You want to hear
Well,
something
you know
crazy,
what?
Jim?
That's a
This is
great thing, Jim, and he's forever in your heart. I know that.
oh yeah,
Today's significant as well for me because 45 years ago I enlisted in the Marine Corps, USMC, Uncle Sam's Misguided Children, and I'm
wow,
still here to talk about it. But that being said, too, your dad was a great softball sponsor, and I remember talking about memory lane here. When I umped you guys with Big Chuck at first base, you were playing short. I think you guys were called Bad Blood or
young
at Clyde.
bloods, yeah.
Right. And your dad was in a wheelchair. You had your dad out there in a wheelchair watching you play ball at
Mm-hmm.
Clyde. And I thought that was outstanding because I got to see my dad play at Kelly Park when I was a kid, for example.
Yep.
So when you talk about getting a softball start, it was the neighborhood. It was being introduced to the game, grammar school, high school, like a lot of us were playing the game. And it was the family, relatives, uncles, my dad, grandpa playing the game. You learn it, it's hand me down, that type of thing, growing up around it. And it's so unique to Chicago and the suburbs that it's our game, man. It's our game, and that's kind of where I got my start. And then our neighborhood team, ironically, was Proviso West guys, okay, and St. Joe High School guys.
Right.
So our first really competitive team was called the Chargers because of St. Joseph Chargers, okay, and that was basically predominantly St. Joe guys and some Proviso West guys, all guys that grew up Westchester, Hillside, Bellwood, Melrose Park, so forth and so on. And we had the great Gene Pingator actually pick some games for us, the great basketball coach for
legend.
St. Joe
He's a
High
legend.
School, okay, who was a pitcher for Sobeys and stuff, the great team of the 60s and 70s. And he would come out and hang with the team and pitch a few games for us. And it was a great start. And we started in the Westchester League, where the Westchester tournament has been for the last 15 years at Mayfair Park. That was the strong Westchester League back in the 70s and 80s. It was a real strong league, and there's several Hall of Famers that played in that league back then, including a guy like Pat Caputo, for example, Proviso West guy, and many others. And I can go on forever on the names, but that's how it kind of all started, all kind of
Yeah.
weaved into itself.
Go ahead, Donnie. I know you had something you wanted to say.
Yeah, it's kind of tying back to Jim what you mentioned about your dad and 14 years ago passing away, and Richie talked about how I played softball with my dad, and crazy enough, we lost him just over 2 years ago, or coming up on the third year. Today is his birthday, so all of that
Really?
happening on a day like today is crazy. So I know he's no longer with us, but we still kind of hold him dear to our hearts and celebrate his birthday tonight. So, but that's just crazy how that works out and how it's all on the same day.
That's yeah.
It's almost like some things just there's guidance from something higher at times, I
Yeah,
think, and then like it's like here we are talking about it, and wow, that's kind of strange, but it's a good
wild.
strange.
Yeah,
It's
in a
strange.
good kind of way. Yeah.
And
Um,
God bless all our fathers and all the fathers that are out there. And hey, softball viewers, your dad's still alive. Spend as much time with him.
Absolutely.
That's my advice right there.
good advice right there. But Jim, we want to get into the first question. You absolutely can.
Yep. So, Richie, I wanted to ask you kind of what you've played long enough. You've been around the game now for quite some time. What has been the favorite thing you did in softball, either in your career or after your career, but just being a part of softball as a whole? What is the one thing that really stood out to you?
Well, two things jump out right away, and one of them was giving back to the game. So back in 2000, Tim Maher started the Catholic League high school softball league. Okay,
Yeah.
and we had to rely on sponsorship. And Timmy was a go-getter. We got a lot of good sponsorship. Hank Schultz from the Saints with Sunkist, and Danny Schmalia stepped up with his uh, uh, asphalt business, and others threw in, and we got the league going. And had a neutral site where the Catholic schools got bussed in. I was the head coach at Marist High School. Mickey Balestri was the head coach at De La Salle. Mike Bukowski, Boo, who just won another football state championship at Montini, was Montini's head coach. And
Really?
anyway, great league. We played each other, so forth and so on. In fact, St. Joe High School had a team out there, St. Rita, and several others that I'm missing right now. But we got to the championship with Marist High School. We beat Montini and Mike McCuskey, the head coach, and that is such a great athletic school. They got state championships banners all over the school. Okay, and shout out to him, to Boo, for another state championship. But and Mikey Paulo as well, one of the coaches. So that being said, to see those high school kids, 17 and 18-year-olds, Jimmy and Donnie, to
Yep.
win that game, to win a championship in softball, it was like they won. It was like a state championship in baseball to them
Yeah.
at Marist High School, and just to teach them some of the game as I was their coach, hitting the ball to the right side, moving runners, stuff like that. Getting the sack fly when you're up runs instead of going for your hit. Little simple nuances that win a lot of games. And then me and Mickey turned around because I was with Crush Softball then. And that summer, we brought him on Crush for a tournament that Eddie Zolna put together in Oak Lawn. And it was a bunch of teams. And we unfortunately got beaten the last inning by a team called Attitude. Very good team that Taunchy was running back then. They beat us
Yep.
in the last inning. But 8 of my guys got to play in that game. So what I was trying to do and why it was such a thrill was growing the game. Okay.
Sure.
It was about growing the game because we need a feeder system into our game. And what better than the high schools? Just like Lane Tech and what we did with the public school and how those guys filter back into our game.
Right.
Okay. So that was the thrill to have that happen and see that these players went back to their neighborhood, put teams together, and started playing our game.
Yeah.
Okay. So that was big. Right now it's just me on the screen. Donnie's on the side. We're good. You
Yeah,
can
we're
still see
good.
me,
Yep.
Jim?
Yep. You're
Okay,
all
just
good.
making sure.
So,
And there's
yeah, no, I
one more
mean,
thing, Jim.
go
There's one
ahead.
more thing. I'd be remiss not to say it when you say about favorite thing, this and that. Of course, it would be very humbled and honored when I got inducted in the Hall of Fame. I was 10 feet tall, brother. That was a big thrill, and I was so happy to be acknowledged for softball. And it was something special. And then when you're sitting there at your table and you got some of the great people with you that you played with and played for, like Lane Neiman with
Yep.
Rockers and Mikey Paulo and Mickey Balestri Crush and Pat Malone, one of the best sponsors in softball, some other close friends, all sitting at your table for that night. It was something special, something special.
Yeah, Donnie, myself, we were just able to attend the last Hall of Fame, and it just it's kind of cool to see, if for those younger players out there that they haven't been to a Hall of Fame, dinner, they definitely need to get out to one. I think it's a cool thing to see. You see a lot of the history, a lot of the old timers, and you hear a lot of cool stories about how the game really got started. And I think that's a huge piece to how we grow the game moving forward. History is always a big part of what we do now. So that being said, Rich, one of my next questions is really about. We talk a lot about growing the game on this show. We talk about how we can make it better. I bring up umpires a lot, and umpires are a crucial part to us enhancing our game, right, and us growing our game. So I know you're an umpire. I know I always have you out at the Dome. One of the main reasons why I like having you is because you usually always control the game from the standpoint of, how it's going. You keep the flow. There's not too much arguing. You don't take much shit. But one of the things I have to ask you is what do you think as an umpire now? What can we do to make the umpires better moving forward in 2025?
Um, Okay, personal opinion on that, and you're 100% right. The umpires are a big part of our game, and in
Yep.
fact, it was in Timmy's poem, "No game without you, Blue." You listen to us bitch and chew, but there's no game without you, Blue. And there's so much. And when you ask about how can we make the umpire better, I think there's two things off the top of my head. When we have umpire clinics, and we have them, over the years.
Okay.
Jimmy Ack ran his, and the SSA and Taunch and Tyler ran theirs. Brian Panic runs his, and that. I think when we do that and we have that clinic, we have to do more of game situations,
Right.
okay? Instead of emphasizing, have a brush, have a clicker, wear your shirt, be on time, what's your availability. I mean, we know all that the structural stuff. It's important. Yeah, you got to have it. But when we're at these clinics, we need to spend hands-on, practical application time, if you will, when we have the clinic in the room. Okay,
Right.
and it works. And I'll tell you why. And the second thing is that what umps do the most of in every game is what, Jim? They call balls and strikes. Okay?
Mhm.
We have to have a complete understanding of balls and strikes.
Right.
6-12 arc, legal, illegal, crossovers, whatever. That has to be addressed in the clinic. And I'll tell you one good thing the SSA clinic did a couple years ago when we had it at the Forest Park Hall of Fame Museum.
Right.
Carlos Castleberry, the umpire, Carlos came with two PVC pipes at 6 feet tall, each of them. Okay, and at the meeting, he connected them, showing what 12 feet is. Okay, so as you
Yeah.
know, we call 6-12. That's why I'm one of the few umps that does call the higher strike, and a lot of batters are so used to the rest of the umps not calling it. But
Yeah.
I learned that 12 feet, you'll be surprised how high you can go, Jim.
Oh,
And
I
I've
know.
even done crazy demonstrations at games or before games or in between where I go out in the middle of the mound and home plate and stick a baseball, official softball bat up in the air. And with my height of 6 feet and my arm up and that bat, that's around 11-ish. And I've had people,
Right.
the pitcher, throw uh, pitches where I'm in the middle between home plate and the mound. There you go, Donnie, as you know.
Hey,
And you'll be
I'm back.
surprised that you throw high, it's still 11 feet sometimes. So
Yeah.
I think if we have the clinic and we go more over balls and strikes better, bring a home plate, bring a mound, do the distance. If we
Yeah.
have to, I'll bring the two PVC pipes again, put 12 feet out there, and we'll throw some pitches, and umps can visual because there's variance. It's in the air. Remember that. 6 foot's
Yeah.
easy to call for most umps because most of us are 6 feet tall or close
Yeah.
to it. But it's
Yep.
that higher one as you go up the ladder that then is different. And you don't have a measuring stick up high in the air. Okay,
Yeah.
so there's variance. But what I will say in defensive umps, okay, as long as the ump is consistent the whole game, okay, you as a pitcher, you as a batter, catcher, whatever, okay, you have to adjust. You know what he's calling that night. As long as he's consistent for both sides and he establishes the strike zone and stays with
Right.
it, you, the pitcher, you, the batter, pay attention. It's part of the game.
Mhm.
You have to then adjust and take what you're getting. Okay, and
Yeah.
if people know when I ump, they'll hear me a lot of times after said ball. Why? Outside. Okay, ball too deep for the height, and I hate the too deep for the height call. But anyway, nonetheless, we have to call it, and it's by regulation now.
Yeah.
I'm more of a pitcher's ump, Jimmy, and both you and Donnie are pitchers. If you're
Yeah,
able to throw a nice arc pitch and you drop it in the back of the well, God bless you. I don't like calling that too deep for the height, but that's
I like it.
that's now part of the structural umpire rules. It's in our
Yeah.
SSA rule book. It's in the USA rule book. Okay, because the thing about that is there's no enforced really batter's box in 16 in softball. So it's not like
Mhm.
you could call this front shoulder back knee routine. That's great when you're in a chalk batter's box and most of the batters are stationary in those dimensions. But we got guys coming to the plate that are way back in the plate, way up in the plate.
Yeah,
There's guys that are a foot above home plate, tomahawking balls, cutting balls, and
yeah.
somewhere in between. Well, how are you going to call a front shoulder back strike when those batters are in that position in an unenforced batter's box or not a chalked batter's box, for example? Okay, you have to
Right.
rely on your well. Okay, you have to rely on your
Yeah.
well, and you have to go with dimensions. The best thing the SSA did, they put a rule book out finally, and it's got a great diagram of how to call strikes. Okay,
Okay.
with behind home plate.
Hmm.
Okay,
So
very
if
helpful.
they have that, how come most struggle with that, right?
And how come
So
it's
Well,
always different?
yeah,
some umps have to read that book. That's why it's a rule book. It's for umpires.
right,
Okay. All right. Just like when you go to Sunday school, you better bring your Bible and read it and know what you're going to handle that day.
right,
Okay.
yep,
That's
yeah,
why
I got a good
there's
point.
books. Right. So I think we need every umpire for sure have one and to read it and use it. That's what it's for.
What do
All
you think
right.
about the mat, like how Berwin
Mm,
does it with the mat?
easy.
Here's the thing with the man. Okay, I think the and it's nothing but umpires. Okay, but if I say umpires in general, that everywhere. Okay, the mat helps average umpires more. Okay,
Right,
I think
yep,
the mat helps average to below average umpires more. All right, the
yep,
mat. All right, but when you have that mat, it takes away from very good skillful pitchers too. All
yeah,
right. They don't get that crossover strike now that they can
right,
throw, for example. All right. So I'm for no. I'm more for saying no, Matt.
yep,
Get better as an umpire and stay consistent when you establish your strike zone, your 6-12, and stay
sure,
with it. And then batters and pitchers adjust accordingly because there's always going to be a little variance. But when it becomes outrageously bad, the mat is a safety valve. I will say that.
yep. So really quick before Donnie gets to his question, I wanted to say Ron Kubicki says tell Richie his buddy says hi from Arizona. Let's golf in March. You got Matt Peckus Skittles here. It says Rich is a class act. Right or wrong calls, he sticks to the call, but always discuss at the end of the game to what he saw. You got Steve Rodriguez. He's saying good stuff, Rich.
Yeah.
Richie Rizzo is saying some things about Oscar. He plays favorites. And then we have a question here, I believe from Greg. It says, he says, what a great guess from an umpire
Hmm.
standpoint. I've said it before, the consistency with umps are a big issue from Iowa to Illinois. So, yeah, no, and Greg is right? And so to your point, Rich, of kind of what you're saying today, makes a ton of sense. It's nice to hear, in my opinion, it's nice to hear that we actually have a rule book
Yeah.
that
I never
has
knew that.
I did not know that either. That has the consistency of a strike zone. So
Yeah.
that is definitely something that is
If
just
you're any
interesting.
SSA tournament, Jimmy, Donnie, any SSA tournament you play, like last year, that rule book is right on the check-in table, right where the SSA board guys
Hmm.
are. There's
Yeah,
a rule book right there now. Okay, so it's
yeah,
there, and under the table there's a box full of them. And me and Mickey suggested last year that every single manager and every single umpire should make sure that they have that book,
right.
okay, and that'll help immensely.
Yep. Donnie, go ahead with your question, my man.
Yeah, no, that's good stuff. Rich, thanks for teaching us all something. I'm sure not a lot of people knew that there's a rule book with a strike zone in it because it changes so often, right? I'll move away from the umpiring for a moment. I want to talk about the playing career. And I know we had a comment about this already and something that I knew, but you are the all-time triples leader in our sport. Now, why is that not the all-time home run leader? What was
Okay,
it about triples, right, that
okay,
were so
all right.
popular in your game, in your arsenal?
First of all, it was the great media man, George Bliss. Okay,
Okay.
and George Bliss, he can make a salad the best meal in the world with not even dressing on it. He is Mr. Hype times 10. He's an announcer
Sure.
on steroids. And he's
Yeah.
been great for the game, great media coverage and so forth. But there's a lot of facts, it's factual in a lot of different ways. Back in 2011, Jimmy, you played with me with Matty Dozen ran Rogers Roofing.
Yep.
Okay, at that time I was 52 years old. We had another Hall of Famer attached to the team, and we called him the Flea. The Flea used to keep all the stats for the Whips in the 80s. Okay,
Yep.
great guy, got in the Hall of Fame, deservingly so, and he kept all our stats in 2011. He was always there with the older retired firemen, if you remember, Jim. They sat at the end of
Yeah.
the bench, this and that, and he was Mr. Statistician. Well, that year, we played in the Pro League in Westchester. Pro League, I believe, Hodgkins, Westchester, and then we were at Clyde Park, and we played
Mm-hmm.
all the big tournaments, and we played in the major nationals. Well,
Mm-hmm.
at the end of the year, the Flea handed out to all of us our stats, and George Bliss got a hold of it, and for that year, I did have 20 triples. So Bliss
That's
grabbed
a
a
lot
hold
of
of that,
triples.
and that's where it started. It was a good year,
Yeah.
and no home runs because when you're 52 years old, you don't even want to run past second base, brother. Okay, so third base was fine. Third base was real
Yeah.
good, and no
Yeah.
sliding either. No sliding. Just get the third, stand there. Then you might ask for a runner, and everyone will start yelling at you. But that's all right. It was good. It was good. So there was some
Yeah.
truth to it. But I think the guy that I saw hit the most triples ever in all my playing days was Larry Downs. Larry Downs could hit a two-hopper through the infield. He was on third before the ball got back to the infield. So, I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
but we had fun with that. And I want to thank the guys for texting in, Ron Kubicki from Arizona, Rizzo, and the others you said already sending in some info and that. Uh, Thank you for Matt for the comments. All you guys appreciate it.
Yeah. You definitely got
Rick.
some love in the chat, Rich, for sure.
Yeah.
And people were excited to have you on the show. So just just letting you know that your appearance with us is appreciative, of course. But Jimmy, go ahead.
Our boy Lane Neiman just said that Rich is never afraid to turn a homer into a triple. So there you go. We'll end on that.
Love you, Lane. Thanks, Lane.
That's a great comment.
So it is a good comment. So Rich, you see the game right now at the state that it's at. Okay, and what we're doing, obviously to try to take the next step to make it, big again or bigger again, right? So just to improve the game. I don't think there's anything wrong with it, but it's not. It's not. Everyone talks about how it's been dying over the last couple of years, right? Over the last 10 years, 15 years, it's kind of been on the decline, especially at the major level. I mean, we're down to 7 or 8 teams now, roughly, that compete at the major level. Tell me something, Rich, right now that you love about where the state of the game's at, and then tell me something that you feel like, you know, maybe if we did that, you would love it a little more too.
All right, you're exactly what you said. You're right on point with it. I think the game is not dying for the quality. It's regressing because of the quantity. Okay.
Right.
No, we don't have as many players. No, we don't have as many teams. No, we don't have as many parks playing six-inning softball. Uh, and that's some of it's demographics. Some of it is just the social media age and technical age we're in. There's more things to do, more temptations. But I can argue against a lot of that in a positive frame. And to
Right.
say right off the top what is working right now, what we're doing tonight, and you guys doing your show, okay, that in itself is great exposure, excuse me, and growing the game. You guys
Yeah.
are out here, we're out here tonight, we're talking, and we've got a lot of viewers on this, okay? And
Right.
that's real good. Working the media to your advantage and to
Right.
grow the game. So that it needs to continue, okay? Your show, what
And Geo.
Geo does, what
Yeah.
Geo does for the SSA, okay? Those are
Agree.
integral things to keep growing our game. And what I think it's doing is it's still kind of growing our game here in Chicagoland, the Chicago and suburbs. But where you're really seeing a difference is it's growing more out of state. It's
Yeah.
growing more Iowa teams. It's growing like we did the 12-inch Rosmano team coming in. It's growing the California and Arizona teams because of social media and what you're doing on your show, what Gio does when he does his broadcast and that.
Yep.
So it's gaining the popularity more so away from Chicagoland now, but I still think it'll help here. Now, also we have to adjust to a new generation, Jim. All right, no,
Yep.
not so much yourself because you're pretty well seasoned with at least 25 years in with softball, maybe more. Donnie, you
Yep.
got your time in, but it's I'm directing it more towards the guys with their first 10 years in or less. Okay,
Right.
uh, we need to market them better, okay, to
Yeah.
get involved in our game, All right,
Sure.
we need to do that. They're not playing ball in the gym class that we talked about earlier. They're not coming back to their neighborhood after college or whatever and hooking up with their buddies. All right. And there's so many indicators that show me this stuff. You know, I used to get to go, you could go to any Chicago park, for example, at any given weekend, and you could play in a money tournament with 20 to 30 teams in it, all over Chicago, for example. And now it went into the suburbs. All right. You could go to your local park gym, Donnie, where you grew up, and there'd be 8 sports being played with several hundred people in your grammar school park, for example. Okay, now I walk to my grammar school park in the summer with my dog, for example. There's 2 guys on their cell phone on a bench, and there's another guy in a dugout with a brown bag drinking. That's what's going on in the park now.
Yeah.
Okay, when I grew up, we had
Sounds like Team Jagoff.
125 different sports. So uh, we've lost some of that. Okay, we've lost some of that, and so media is what you guys are doing, you Jim, and so forth. That's going to help a lot. That's starting to pan out. We need to continue to move forward. That I think another thing we're doing that's real good with the SSA and Francisco Arenas. He is growing the game so good on
Yep.
the B
He
level and
is.
A level,
Yep.
and these guys are getting better. Their teams are getting better, and now they're moving up. So that addresses your question about the major level
Yeah.
regressing. All right, now Frank's growing the B and the A level real well, Francisco Rennes, and they're moving and getting better now. The B player now, a year later, he's an A player. 2 years later, like a guy like Marco, he's a major player now. You know,
Yeah.
it's working. So we need to continue to grow the game grassroots, get the parks going, get the b-ball going, and move that direction, and then the major level we'll start seeing increased numbers.
Yeah. Yeah. I would like for Jason here. I just want to get to the fans really quick before we get to the rapid fire. Uh, I don't know what Jason means. Decline of the SSA. Oh, if you don't play in the 4 or 5 certain teams, that's why softball doesn't matter. I agree to a point, but at the same time, not what Francisco's doing at the lower levels. The lower levels, to your point, Rich, is huge. Go ahead, Donnie.
To add to that, to add to what Francisco's doing, it seems like every year at the B and the A level, he's got new teams, not
Mm-hmm.
just teams moving through the B level to the A, which is important, or new B team. That is what shocks me and what surprises me most about Francisco. He's got 4 or 5 new B teams, 4 or 5 new A teams competing
Right.
in his tournament. What's he got? 35 teams at A Nationals or 38 teams? I mean, that's fantastic to see, and then he puts in
Yes.
the work to recruit those teams to come out and play in his tournament. I mean, that's a huge testament to that level. Those levels growing.
Yep.
We just don't want to see that major level diminish, is what Jason is talking about, right? If you're not playing on those 4 or 5 teams, you don't matter. Where essentially that could be argued against because of the growth of other teams. Right
Right.
now, it may seem so because of how good the top teams are at the major level. I mean, but at the end of the day, you want to see growth within those 2 levels to then compete at the major level. So, like
No
fat
doubt.
kids, for example, for fat
No,
kids moving up through A, winning A no glove, and then playing major right away. I mean, that's good for them that they're moving up so quickly. So, I
Yep.
like to see that stuff.
100% right. And I'll tell you another thing, an old myth, and it was said to me by one time playing young guy on the team. And he goes, well, you know, I've got better things to do with softball, and you have nothing better to do. That's why you're always here and don't miss. And I looked at him and said, listen, let me tell you something. And I know Blaine and Mickey and a lot of the other old timers out there, and I think even you guys can attest, and Jimmy, for sure,
Yeah.
because you got more years in. I said, look, I had weddings to go to. I had a bar mitzvah I could have went to. Okay, I could go and see Country Thunder during the Forest Park tournament. I chose to play softball first over those things. I even
Yeah.
missed a wedding. Okay, my fiance's brother's wedding. It was Labor Day weekend. Told you in April, I ain't going. I play softball in the Nationals on Labor Day weekend. Okay, so I don't want to hear about I didn't have nothing better to do and you've got more things that are more important to do. Well, you know what? Go do them then. And I think that's
Yeah.
some of the problem we're having with some of the guys. You know, the commitment level now in softball is not real good. And we
No.
need everyone to buy in, to be more committed to your team and your teammates. You're
I mean,
missing out. You know,
You're
enjoy
100%.
enjoy it. Yeah, enjoy this game. Play it, enjoy it.
Yep.
You'll have
I mean,
time for weddings. You'll have time for other things.
yes.
It'll all come there for you. Bring your
For
kids to the game like we all did, like everyone.
yeah.
Just like when you own a restaurant, Jim. You got to bring your kids there so you can see them because you're working so many hours. All right. Well,
Yeah.
you can bring the softball games too. There's ways of
Yeah.
doing it, these are all little things. But when you start
I
putting these
mean,
little things together,
you
softball
bring up
grows.
you bring up some great points, and when I mean, for those out there that know my schedule on a daily, weekly basis, and then come summertime, you see I commit and make softball. It's a commitment. I want to be there, and yeah, I might have to miss a game here or there, but I'm usually there 98% of the time. So, yeah, I would love to see more commitment out of teammates, out of people that that play the game at the major level. It's only going to make the game better and more attractive for others to play it. So, Donnie, before I get to rapid fire, do you have any other questions, really quick?
No, no, not before rapid fire. We'll get to my stuff after. This is the meat and potatoes of the show right here. This is
Yeah,
what people watch for. So go ahead,
yeah.
Jim.
So,
Jim,
Fire
one more
away.
thing. Jim, one more thing before we get to that, because you made a good point that I want to go with too. And you're on a very busy schedule with family, the kids, the dome, and everything. And every time I bumped or gone to a tournament or a big league game, you're always there. Okay,
yeah,
like you said, 98% of the
Sure.
time. Now, why is the difference for Jimmy in nowadays softball able to do that with his rigorous schedule, probably 10 times rigorous than a lot of you other guys? And I'm going to
yeah,
tell you the component, and it's the one that I stress a lot. Okay, and I have a brick at the Hall of Fame outdoor exhibit. It's love for the game. You
yeah,
love the game. That
yeah.
when you have love for something, you make it work.
Yes,
Okay, you make it work, and that's the difference. We need more of our younger players to learn love the game. There's a
yes.
lot out here. You'll see.
Yeah,
Commit,
yeah.
commit to it.
We hit it on the head, and I know we beat it to a drum, and we definitely need the guys at the major level to be more committed, and I hope that down the road here. So I know Donnie's having technical difficulties, so he'll be joining us back here in a second, and here he comes now. Donnie, before I get to the rapid fire, do you want to read some of the comments out there that you
Yeah.
maybe have missed?
Yeah. Greg Pagum said, "Well said. The game can't grow without youthful teams. The game don't need dominating teams. The game needs good competition to keep it exciting," which is a great comment from Greg. And he's out there in Iowa too, so he sees the youth from Iowa then transition into their major level, their major teams, and then go play tournaments here. So you get to see someone from Iowa kind of progress and grow into a better player, and then play against our youth, and it's a great thing for the game. Hot Carl C in Phoenix. I run an ump seminar. This is Al Mag in the 16-inch Softball Hall of Fame. A comment there. Jimmy Provenzano gives you a big thumbs up. Jason Shively says, "Love of the game. That's why we all play," and that's absolutely true. And Richie was making a good point as I got disconnected there. But Jimmy, you're there. You've got small kids. You run a business. I mean, you're always there.
Yeah,
You always say my back hurts. I'm not going to make it. You're the first one there.
yeah,
you
yeah.
know, I'm the same way. I always say, man, this is going to be tough to balance the schedule, but I don't miss the games. I mean, sure, it gets me into arguments, but that's why we are dedicated, and that's how it's how we
That's
flourish.
how we
So
play.
that's
So,
right.
so Rich, this is the part of the show. It's called rapid fire. I give you a person's name, and you tell me a sentence about that individual. Okay, and I'm going to start with number 10. And number 10, I had to put him at number 10 because it was the most watched video in 2024 for softball. You and the Birdman had an incredible moment. So number 10 is the Birdman.
Softball can be fun and entertaining all at once. I'll put it that way. Fun and entertaining all at
Yep.
once, and it doesn't happen unless the Birdman gets called out on strikes.
All right. So number 9 is George Bliss.
George Bliss, the voice of softball. Greatest quote around. softball is the greatest game in America. That's
Yeah.
George Bliss, media icon.
Yep. So number 8, Matt Dozen.
Matt Dozen has done so much for softball in so many categories, and it was my pleasure seeing him on stage at the Hall of Fame dinner in October, accepting the Holden Award. That is for a person that has done so much in so many ways at a high level, whether it be one of the top defensive outfielders in play, uh, running teams now, a major in an A simultaneously, his efforts with the media, working with George Bliss,
Yep.
doing games. It goes on and on. His sponsorship with his business, uh, he's an SSA board member. He holds the first tournament every year now.
Yep.
It's just there's a guy with love for the game. He just contributes for so long, for so many years, 30 plus years, and it was great seeing him get his Hall of Fame nod.
Number 7, Al Nag.
Well, we don't have a Hall of Fame unless of Al Mag and Tony Ribel, co-founders of the Hall of Fame, and of course the board and us all on the committee and so forth. But that was Al Mag's dream that he put into reality with
Right.
the help of course, the board members in the committee and so forth. And he's a visionary. He's just a visionary. And then what he does for the kids with his a Mag Toy Foundation, with his golf outing and this tournament I'm going to this March. I'll be umpiring again out there in March and helping the kids have a Christmas toy at Christmas that wouldn't have one. Uh, it brings tears to my eyes.
Yeah.
It's good stuff.
Number 6, Lane Neiman.
Lane is, there's not that many guys that have done this. Lane Neiman is not only in the Hall of Fame as a manager, but his team, the Rockers, is also an honored Hall of Fame team, kind of like Crush and Mickey Balestri. You got to start thinking real hard on how many
Yeah.
guys are in the Hall as a manager and their team. And Lane to win in '98 the Forest Park No Glove Nationals, and Greg Ziegler to get the MVP. Um, that was fantastic because he had the Rockers so many years before that, and he kept growing the team and getting better and getting better and getting better, and he finally got to the top of the mountain and won the Forest Park No Gloves. And that's you know just a guy that another guy that loves the game and put a lot of years in
Yep.
game, and good friend.
Number 5, Frank Colin.
Well, Frank Colin, icon. Okay, when you talk softball in the conversation, you start dropping names on people. Uh, Frank Colin, Dick Cooper, Eddie Zolna, they're right
Yep.
there at the top for the greatest managers and icons and teams. Class act team, the Taggers. In fact, we're going to have the Taggers reunion this Saturday. We're getting together with all the Tagger guys and other softball people coming. And Frank Colin, uh, just an icon of the game. And I really liked him a lot too because he was a no glove component, and Eddie Zollner
Okay.
was more for the gloves, but Frank Holden was old time no glove softball. And the Holden family, good people, and great softball family.
So number 4 is Mark Provenzano.
Mark Provenzano. Let me tell you something about Mark Provenzano. Played with him many years with Nemesis, his team. Played with him on the Saints and in some other teams. But I will tell you what, Mark is one of the most generous guys. When we were on Nemesis all those years, we never went out of our pocket. You know how you go out always and eat and drink, okay? When we were in the Hillside League and won that, we'd go to Q's. And we'd have 15 to 20 people. That's when the wife and girlfriends came out. Mark picked up the tab every time. We always had nice uniforms. He would not. Nobody went out of their pocket. When we won Melrose Park, we'd go to his famous garage mahal, eat and drink all night in the garage. Okay,
Okay.
watch softball videos, everything, and nobody, very few people, when the game started and you're on the field playing room, had a intensity and desire to win and enthusiasm like Mark did. And
Yep.
we got along a lot because of that, because I could relate because I had that too. And sometimes we went at it because of that, because you get so fired up. And Jimmy, you know how that can be. You know, you
Oh
got a
yeah.
couple get fired up in a game. You know, you kind of go at each other sometimes a lot of times, but that's a good thing. That's healthy.
Yeah.
You're trying to win. So
Damn right.
so Mark's good people, good friend.
Yep. So at this point of the show, I always hand it over to Donnie, but I think Donnie's got a 4B for you before we get to the top
I
three.
do. I do. So there was a comment from JD, from Mr. John Doss,
Yeah.
and he says, "You'll know who this is, Rich," but he's putting Moffett, Moffet, in the chat. I'm not aware of it. Hopefully, you are. Uh, do you know what? Do you know what he's getting at here, Rich?
Who did that? John Doss?
Yes,
You're talking about John Doss. Well, then he
correct.
should check his spelling. It's Moffitt. Okay. So if you're
Love
gonna
it,
if you're
Rick.
gonna throw that out there, JD, spell it properly. Okay. All right. And I'm gonna take the Fifth Amendment on that. All
Nice.
right. All right. And it's spelled backward. It's Tefam. All right.
All
So you
right.
know. All right. So that's the Fifth
Very good.
Amendment.
So
Yeah,
so
I knew you had something up your sleeve. That and Birdman stuff. I knew something else was coming.
Donnie,
Hey, that was all
Donnie,
him.
go ahead and read some of the comments before I get to the top three.
Paul Rowan made a great comment. Said there's a lot of good players out there, and a lot of good competition at the local parks. Many who can compete at the major level. They just don't want to travel. So essentially, potentially referring to some Southside kids, right? The Kennedy Park, the Mount Greenwood guys, the younger kids that could probably play A level, major level, simply don't want to travel a whole lot to play, and are okay in their world, if that makes sense, right?
It
Because
does.
Jimmy, you play down there, you see those guys on the Savage team, and
Yes.
they can play major level, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
You are
there's
right.
a couple studs. Yeah.
Yes. And I'll tell you what, because I have umpired out there, so forth. Paul is
Mm-hmm.
right. There's two things there. One, here we talked about growing the game earlier. We talked about it. We need to market better that south side of Mount Greenwood. There are some good teams and some good ball players. We got to get them into more mainstream. Number two, we got to get rid of this goofy rule they have with their tournament in Forest Park No Glove Nationals versus playing in that the tournament they have, the big one. You
Papa
can't
Hops.
Papa Hops, yes. You know that if you're playing that, you can't play in Forest Park. Or if you're playing Forest Park, no, you can't play. You know, we need to get rid of that, okay? Because
Yeah.
that causes division, okay? And
Yeah.
division's not. We want those kids to come and play in both. You know, get invited to Forest Park No Gloves and still do Papa Hops where there's nothing against it. There are a lot of good ball players there, and that's a good start to start growing our game. Is to do a
Yep.
better job working, getting
Well,
those guys to come.
here you bring up Papa Hops, and before we get to the top three, I just want to say this. So I love everything that the Papa Hops is about. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I love everything that the major level's about. But one of the things that I always notice about the major level and Papa Hops, it's always the same four teams in the finals in Papa Hops. Okay. It's always the same four teams in the major level. So when I hear that, well, we play only two major players per team because it equals out, it doesn't. It's still the same four teams in Papa Hops that make the finals every single year. Okay. The same four teams. I love the tournament. I love the concept. It's an absolute blast Friday night. Love everything about it. But it's no different than what we do at the major level. Okay. And to your point, Rich, I think what we're getting at is that I would like to see that eliminated. They can still do the rule, okay, which I think in their part is if those kids play Forest Park, now a lot of those kids are major players. They can't play, so it eliminates the players. I get all that. But that's where you come out with a list of the top maybe 100 major players in the game or top 64 major players in the game. And if you're on that list, then you can't, you can only have two of those people on that list with a 32 team field. It would maybe help. Now they do have a committee, and I know Zoe's on it, and that's something else that we can discuss later. But that would eliminate what you're saying, Rich, where they can play both. And if you just rank the top 64 players, those are your major players, anyways. So all in all, and like I said, it's the same four teams every single time that make the finals at Papa Hops. It's always
Well,
meant. It's always the other team that Nate plays on. I can't think they won it last year.
Ignition. Ignition's good.
Ignition's always there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Bagel Boys now. They've got 7 major players on their team, but 5 of them are over 45. So it's like, it's all the same stuff. It's just that there's ways around the rules. So,
well, it's like
but
anything. When something becomes a monopoly, then you have to look at breaking it down and make it an even playing field as much as possible for others. So your idea is a good idea, and
yeah,
and I can't speak as much to that tournament, but I will say yes, it is a great tournament. And then when we mentioned Forest Park No Gloves, think of this. What do you think? And me and Mickey rolled this around many times. What do you think if Forest Park No Glove Nationals was an open draw? And you weren't seeding already. The best 8 teams in softball are already being seeded and getting a bye versus
yeah,
if you had an open blind draw. And I know there's advocates out there. No one wants to see Flash play the 45s the first game. They want to see him on Sunday. So, this or that is structured a certain way. Or, they're giving them for doing well the year before, as long as they come back with 50% roster, they keep the seeding. I get all that, but you know what? I don't have a problem seeing the 45s play Flash on Friday night versus waiting for Sunday. I mean,
yeah,
I wonder what an open draw would be like. We do the major nationals and the A nationals are open draws, right? Why not try that at Forest Park?
yeah,
Why not try your idea for Papa Hops, where there's a list of major players now, and we've got to equally move them around? Maybe. I
yeah.
mean, does it
I
make
mean, why not end the tournament on Saturday night?
that idea I love, and I'm going to tell
Yeah,
you why I love
Oh
it.
boy.
You want to talk
Oh
about having
boy.
an audience of people that'll stick around, because you know how it is when you're out on Saturday. How many people come back on Sunday? You lose all those other teams and audience. People got to work the next day on Monday. Okay,
yeah,
so they watch out about partying, this or that. You got that prime time on Saturday night. Just start an earlier day during the week then. I
yeah.
love the
Start
idea
on
of it.
Wednesday.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
love it.
I
Love that.
mean, we all play Wednesday leagues. What's the difference? So,
Thank you.
well, let's get back to your
But
rapid fire top 3. So the top 3, and we'll come back to that discussion in a little bit here later in the show. But number 3 is our boy, and he's always number 3 on our show, and that's our boy Gio.
Okay. Relentless dedication to our game. Relentless. His media coverage and the time he puts in with the SSA um, is pretty amazing stuff. He's very dedicated. Yeah, everybody's going to have their differences. More like for one guy over there, this or that. Sometimes you have to separate that stuff sometimes, and you have to look at the end result. Okay, and treat the person as a human being first, from the human race. Okay, and you start getting better and seeing
Yep.
that they have the same love for this game as I do. They just go about it a different way, but the end
Sure.
justifies the means type stuff. So his dedication is incredible to the game.
Yep. Number 2 is Ray Tops.
You know, I will respect that he has held the vice presidency of the Hall of Fame since the inception. Okay, and that is not an easy position. All right. Whether I personally like or dislike him, it doesn't matter. I respect him in his position as a Hall of Famer and the vice president of the Hall of Fame and all the responsibility that requires. Okay.
Yep.
So I don't have to uh, convey any personal things, all right, likes or dislikes. I will give him respect and respect the rank.
Yeah.
Okay.
Our show's about throwing people under the bus. No. Just kidding.
Well,
I'm just
listen.
kidding,
I know
Vince.
about
Totally
your
kidding.
show, and you guys are doing your best, but no one's under the bus yet, buddy, because I'm the
Yeah,
bus
I'm just kidding.
driver.
I'm just kidding.
I'm the bus
So,
driver now, and it's in park. So
We've been through 9 guys, and you haven't thrown one person under the bus, and pleaded the fifth on one, which is Uncle Jimmy, cousin Donnie first.
yes, yes,
So you've been rock solid so far, my friend.
well,
yes, you
I was
have.
the I pleaded the fifth in the second half of that.
Yes, yes.
I'm
I
still
still
counting
gave
that.
So,
you an
That's the first
opinion,
for us.
but you tried to blow it up, and I doubt that John Doss called that in. I think
He did. He
he's
did.
getting
He commented.
blamed for something he didn't do.
He
oh, he
commented
totally
100%
did.
and spelled it
Okay.
wrong.
So number one, it, number one is a really good dude, a really good guy, and is a guy that we play golf with sometimes in the summer. A guy who you played for many of years, and that's Mickey Balestri. Number
Oh well,
one.
I can't uh, miss my best friend.
Yeah,
Uh, uh, we've had a great softball career, but Jimmy, as you have seen, softball transcends
to
friendship.
front.
It's not
Yep,
just
Yeah.
softball. You know, we
yep,
golf. We've gone on vacations. I talk to Mick. We talk almost every other day. Uh, uh, we're good friends. I mean, the best of friends,
yeah,
uh, and we're still actively involved in supporting softball. He has a strong love for the game, as you do, and Donnie and myself, and he is still involved. And he's going to be 70 years old in March. Okay, and
yep,
he still loves being involved in the game of softball, and the Crush team is probably a name and manager wise, as you know, he's Hall of Fame manager and Hall of Fame player manager. Uh, has probably the longest running years as a team with the
yeah,
name Crush and Mickey as the manager. I mean, it's maybe 40 years.
right.
So that itself tells you about commitment and dedication and love of the game. So yeah, he's been a close friend for a long time, and we still support the game a lot, and we think a lot alike. We're old school, you know, we're old
Yep.
fashioned in some sense, but yeah, good friend.
You mentioned you mentioned someone that would always be there for you. There's not many people in the world that you can call when you're in a pinch, and they'll be there for you every time. And that's one of the guys that you're with now. For me, is Richie Bettistoni. We
Yes,
wouldn't be doing this right now if it wasn't for Richie, because you're using Richie's phone to go
yes.
live. And
Well,
Richie,
he's drinking in the bar on my money right now.
of course he is, but that's how he gets even. But at the same time, he's one of those individuals, just like Mickey to me, that would do anything. And I called him up, and he said, "No problem, Jim," and then he's there. So, that's what friendship's about, and that's what Mickey's about. I've got to really get to know Mickey over the last, call it 10, 15 years. More personable probably in the last 5 years. And he's a great guy. I mean, everything he says, straight shooter, knows how it is. So can't agree with you more. So,
Well, let me just real quick on that, Jim. And when there's the old saying, a friend in need is a friend indeed. Many years ago,
yeah,
I got jammed up, and I'm going to tell you about the softball community, some great guys that helped me, okay, when I was in a jam. And Mickey, I'll tell you about Jeff Berger. What
yeah,
a great guy and friend. and
yep,
and and Jeff steps up to the plate for a lot of people. Okay, especially when you need them. Lane Neiman. Okay, Shane Lawler, Denny Lawler, Pat
sure,
Malone, guys like that. You know,
yep,
incredible softball guys, Hall of Famers, and great, good men. How's that sound? It's great
yeah,
to be called a good softball player. How about being called a good man? Those are good
yeah,
men. Those are good men. So appreciate.
absolutely. So, really quick before I get to my next question, and I've got pretty much one more question. But let's get back to what we were talking about with the Saturday night and what that would bring. I liked your idea, what you were saying, and you thought it's an awesome idea starting the day before on that Wednesday. What do you think it would take for us? You're part of the SSA. What would you think it would take for the SSA to actually try that out one year? Because of the fact of what you said, we think more people would stay around. I think people in the comments have already wrote, there's nobody out there on Sunday. And let's face it, like if we want these younger kids to play this game, I don't care at any level that you're at athlete wise, you want to play in front of people. Okay. It just makes you more psyched, more into the game. You want to play in front of an audience. Every athlete in America does. Okay. You heard the professionals during COVID when they were playing in empty stadiums, how they felt like they weren't as into the game as they were when the stadium's packed.
Absolutely.
I'm not going to say we're going to pack the softball world, but I'm going to tell you this: on a Saturday night, we're going to have 100 times more people than what we have now on a Sunday. And so, what is you touched a little bit on about it? What do you think we could do to get the SSA to try that? And what's your thought and opinion behind that?
I think first you walk, then you run, Jim, like anything else, okay? I think a pilot tournament, a co-venture, okay, with the SSA, kind of like they do a co-venture with the Westchester Tournament Champions the last couple of years. Westchester
Sure.
Park District's involved, SSA's involved, okay? Do a pilot tournament. Pick
Yep.
a time Wednesday through Saturday, all right? SSA's involved, you're involved. Your idea to begin with. This starts with you, and
Yep.
you can develop it with their assistance, a trial run, if you will, and
Yep.
go out with sponsors, sponsor as well. But your dome, your whatever the business, will get some sponsors, get some money behind you in sponsorship.
Yeah.
Okay, pick a site that'll work. Assuming you're going to get a lot of teams, it's going to have to be a 3-field, 4-field type complex.
I would
Okay.
love for Danny Atkins to do it for the North South.
Pardon me?
I would love for Danny Atkins to do it for the North South. I think if he's going to do it in Schaumburg, you got 5 fields out there. There's no reason why we can't finish that bad boy on a Saturday night.
Well, okay. There you go. It's going to require to have those number of fields and a venue with good parking, easy
Yeah.
access off Expressway. Schaumburg is a good thing, and it's also now the home of SSA tournaments.
Yep.
Uh,
It's a great facility.
so
Beautiful
so
facility.
somehow sit down with the SSA and have conversation of a co-venture. Let's try
Right.
this as a pilot, see how it works, see
Right.
what happens. That there before you go out on a limb and try to say, hey, we're doing this for sure. We're gonna lock down on it for several years. Give it a try.
Yeah.
Try it that way.
Absolutely. I've been trying, so hopefully they're gonna hopefully understand we can get it done. So before I get to my last question, Donnie, is there any other question that you have for Rich?
I have one more thing. So this I'm curious to see if Rich remembers this game. I know you've got a great memory as you hang out with Big Mickey Balestri, and he remembers every single game, every single inning. So I
He'll tell
was
you what he ate for lunch.
yeah,
In
and that
1986,
day.
he could tell you what he ate
Yeah,
for lunch before he played the 1 o'clock game. Yes,
yeah.
no doubt.
I find that
So his memory
amazing.
is
I find that amazing about him. I find that amazing about him. So you were umpiring a game that I was playing in Rosemont, and the other team was complaining about something. Do you remember what the other team was complaining about as I was pitching, and you were umpiring that game?
Was it the
The trivia
Rosemont
question.
Dome?
It was the Rosemont Dome.
Was it
Yes,
it was the Rosemont Dome? And
you were umpiring. It
somebody
was just
was
a random.
complaining about your pitch. What's that?
Someone's complaining not about the pitching. Someone's complaining about you and I.
Oh, yeah, I do recall. They thought we were fraternizing. Yes, the
Yeah,
first baseman of
yeah.
the team started
They
running his
thought.
mouth at me because
Yep.
I called you Donnie instead of Pitch, and you called me
Exactly.
Richie instead of Blue. So
You
this
got it.
guy grabbed
Ah,
You
onto
got
it,
it. He was
so you guys
pissed
are
because we
cheating.
were
and
too
I get
friendly.
it.
yes, we were always friendly. I was having a bias towards Donnie and his team, and he was getting his ass kicked. This guy, I couldn't get rid of him. He stayed and he sat cross-legged behind home plate in the
He
net,
did.
Jimmy, for the next 2 games I umped. I was thinking to myself, do I got my pistol with me or do I got to run in my car? This fucking guy was nuts. That's
he
all I can
was
tell you. And
he was
Donnie,
mad.
Donnie,
He was
Donnie had fun
mad,
with
man.
it, and he kept calling me Richie. Yeah. And then this guy, every time Donnie would call me Richie, he'd go nuts. And then I said,
That's
okay,
awesome.
Donnie, it was a little high ball, you know.
And
And he
then
goes,
Uh,
you're giving him
he
the
said,
game.
"Hey, you guys are too friendly. I can't play this game any longer. I will no longer play in this game." And Richie said, "You can go home."
Right. I said, go home. But you know what? Now that my memory's good on this, do you remember when the guy hit the liner to you and you doubled him off first base? It was him at first
Oh,
base you doubled off.
it
A
was him
guy
at
hit a
first base.
liner at you, he tripping at me, and then you doubled him off, and I went 4 feet in front of him. Said, "You're!" I yelled out as loud as I could to him. You're on.
that's
Punched him
awesome.
out.
Yeah,
I love that. I love the memory that you and Mickey, such great company when you talk about softball, but the memory of certain things like that play specifically, right? Things like that, and that just speaks to the character that you are and how much you love the game, and that stuff right there is great to reminisce about. So thank you for remembering that. I appreciate it.
you got it. And the umpire stuff is a book in itself on some of the crazy stuff that goes down in games and the umpires and the reactions. I had a crazy girl squirt a White Claw. They were calling me White Claw one summer because this girl shook up a can of White Claw and sprayed it all over me through the fence. Because I
Oh,
kicked her husband out of a game. It was funny. It was funny. I mean, it wasn't funny when it happened, but it was funny afterwards. And yeah, and she made a noise. She went "Ee," like that, and then she opened the White Claw, shook it up, and sprayed it all over me. Oh yeah,
that's awesome.
yeah. So there's some umpire stuff that goes on. I mean, the Birdman thing that still might be my favorite, Jimmy. And then I keep
Oh,
thinking
Great
about
Birdman's
moment.
that.
incredible. Yeah, the Birdman, man.
That.
He
But he
he called
he
me.
taunted me for yeah.
Oh, he's not done taunting you. Don't worry about that. You're gonna hear more of the Birdman. So Rich,
I'm in
this
Vegas. He
is
says, I'm in Las Vegas. He's texting me. I'm going to come out there and kick your ass. He says, I'm in Vegas now.
I
Okay.
hear
I
you.
said, you come out here. You ain't going to leave the desert, buddy.
No, it's the Birdman, man. So he is one of a kind. There's no one like him. I promise you that. But Rich, this is the last question that we ask every guest, and then we hand it over to you for questions for us. But so the last question I ask every guest that comes on the show, it's always about improving your game, right? So the question is, if you had one thing you want to change in softball today to make it better, what would it be?
Uh, Real simple. Unity over division. Unity over division. I want to see all of softball get along, work for the common good. Stay with their mission statement of promoting, preserving, growing our game. I don't care
Right.
if it's the SSA, USA, uh, uh, Hall of Fame, park districts, whatever. Okay, get along. If you can't, stay away from each other. Peacefully coexist, whatever. Let the players in the game be able to be played by many teams and as many people in many places. Okay, no one person, in my opinion, or association is greater than the game itself.
Right.
Okay, that always should be put first. Find a way together to make it work. That's that's how I think we make our game better as we go along.
Yeah. No, that's that. I mean, you hit it nail on the head. I mean, trying to make everyone work together. I think Donnie, you and I have said that now for the last 6 months, right?
Yeah.
At least in
Yeah.
regards to try to get everyone on the same page. Everyone together is better than
Yep.
all of us divided. So, 100% can't agree more. Rich, at this point of the show, we hand it over to you. Do you have any questions for cousin Donnie and I before we let you go?
No, I just want to thank you again for having me as a guest, and I think what you're doing is really helpful and is growing the game and helping the game. Okay,
Yep.
and you're very credible because you're both players as well. You're playing the game as well. You're not outsiders,
Right.
looking in. You're from the inside, trying to help the outside.
Right.
Okay, uh, but I would be remiss not to give a shutout to a lot of my friends. Thank yous. And the first one I want to start with, and I want all the soft, some people know, some don't, is Pat Braniff, aka Swoop, is fighting pancreatic cancer. And I want our prayers to continue to go out to him as he fights pancreatic
Yep.
cancer. I don't want to lose another guy from softball like a Stan Paddock, the great Hall of Famer, Frankie Mione, the great Hall of Famer that pancreatic, won their fight against. I want him to win his fight. So let's support him and keep him in our thoughts and prayers. Uh, I want to go and talk about a lot of significant people that a lot of softball knows and some don't out of our viewing uh, audience. And it's, of course, we grow from our past and our present. I want to just go over quickly some of my favorite managers. Richie Del Judas, rest in peace, Hall of Famer, Flame softball.
Yep.
Marky Provenzano, softball. Lane Neiman, Hall of Famer. Mikey Paulo, Saint softball, Hall of Fame. Both their teams are in the Hall of Fame. Uh, uh, Chubbs, Takers, Hall of Famer. What a humanitarian Chubbs is and what he does with his charities. Uh,
I love Chubbs. Chubbs gave me a Packer pitcher this past year. He's a tremendous guy, and I know if we throw out shots to him, so great call on that one, Rich.
Yeah, I mean, of course, my guy Mickey Balestri, a Hall of Fame player, manager, Crush Softball Hall of Fame team. Mick, big fun, great memories. Thank you. I was blessed to have one of the greatest sponsors, Pat Malone from McGaffers. Uh, L. Mag, co-founder of our Hall of Fame, a dream come true. Uh, SSA, SSA, unbelievable. Pat Caputo, Ronnie Matriciano, Joe Polito, Francisco Arenas, Tyler, so forth, so on. Sal Malazzo, Taunchy with the ump, Sal Malazzo in the Rosemont Dome. All the work those guys do. They were a shot in the arm for softball 15 years ago. And that's
Yep.
why softball is still playing competitive major and A ball and B ball, of course, growing the
Yep.
game with Francisco, for example. All right. And we got to respect our past. We came from it. The SSA was born out of the failures of the ASA. Okay. So ASA, USA, all the great years with the ASA, Tom O'Neill, Bob Ancona. Nobody run a national tournament like those two guys, especially Bob out in Mount Prospect. Incredible nationals and state tournaments. And now he's recently retired. Got to respect what they did. The Forest Park District, 50 plus years of no glove softball. Okay, the no glove nationals. All right.
Yep.
The media, George Bliss, Timmy Maher, Geo, you guys. Okay. Cahill with his newspaper. Uh, you know, unbelievable. And I want to personally thank two umpires that got me started umping 25 years ago, John Mitchell and Jimmy Akinfora. Okay. And the signers right now that I work for, Francisco Arenas, SSA, Clyde Park, Brian Panic, um, Merrill's Park. Um, thank you. Because like we said earlier, no game without you, Blue.
Yep.
So those are some of the shout outs I want to say hello to. Thank you to, and thank you for being my friend. It's been a great ride, softball,
Yeah.
See,
and I'm happy it's continuing. I'm
yes, sir.
looking forward to umping. I can't wait to
Yep.
ump again. I'm really waiting forward to outdoor season, and I hope you do something again, Jim, in your dome.
We
I
will.
Yeah,
hope
yeah,
you know. I
We
hope
will.
so. And my understanding is the Rosemont Dome. There might be another session there. There
yeah.
might
Looks
Yeah.
be.
like looks
Starting
like
in
there could
February.
be
Yeah.
looks like there could be a second session, which would be great. See some guys and get more swings and see guys like yourself talk softball
No
with.
doubt.
Yep.
No doubt. It's all.
So
It's all.
Rich, you said it great, man. Way to end the show. Way to end your interview. Definitely appreciate that. Uh, we definitely appreciate your time and what you said tonight. I think it's going to go a long way with a lot of the players. So thank you.
It
I
was wonderful.
appreciate it, and I'll leave it one last thing for everybody out there. Have love for the game. It's a
Yep.
great game. All right, guys.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Rich.
All right.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, Rich. We appreciate it.
So I'll tell you, man, the passion. I mean, I wish
Yeah,
some of our players had that passion, huh?
I know. And to take, we do this every show where we give you an opportunity to to speak or ask us questions at the end. No one's ever taken that moment to thank a bunch of people and give some shout outs like that. So he was the first person to plead the fifth on a on a rapid fire the second half, and then to go and thank a bunch of people for being inspirational to him. I mean, great stuff from Mr. Hennessy, and that was great. And the passion, like you said, and I'm sure you'll have him out at the Dome again because he's always willing to go out there.
I always ask Rich every single time. I know he's I count on him.
Yeah, reliable. He'll always go there. I mean, if you needed him, days notice, 2 days notice, he'll be there.
Before we get to our last segment, which is the hot dog review, I want to answer Jake's question here. So yes, Chris Harrison is helping me run. He asked me, I should clear the air. He asked me to run a co-ed league in the Dome. So Chris Harrison, obviously many know, play a ton of co-ed softball. We have Sunday nights, we have Tuesday and Wednesday nights open. The league is going to consist of double headers every single time you come. So you will play the same team twice every single night. Depending on the amount of teams we get, we're hoping to get 8. I have to touch base with Chris here tomorrow to see where we're at. I know he had made a comment that he had us a couple teams already interested from the time we put it out. So we want to touch base with him. But yeah, we'll have 3 nights a week going in the Dome, Donnie. I mean, I'd like to do more if we could. The Saturday night, I might try to throw a tournament on Saturday night, January 28th. Do like a kind of like what we did last time with the 6-teamer, but actually with major teams or 8 teams. So I will know that by tomorrow. I'm going to find out that information tomorrow to see if I can get some availability. I mean, we are sold out as can be in that Dome.
Yeah.
So
I feel like Sunday night's probably good for that. I'm sure guys, maybe after the football season, it'll be over soon. Sunday nights is super available in there. I mean, if guys want to make the trip out, and just anything you have available, right? It's going out there to get swings. I mean, it's good to like I said, see the guys, get swings, gain some rapport, and just kind of be around. And I know it's far for some, but it's a great facility. Good chicken tenders, good hot dogs. Transition, good hot dogs. No matter what time you're there.
Yeah. So for all those viewers that will be watching our show, Donnie and I are going to be going out on a weekly basis and giving reviews on hot dogs across the Chicagoland area. So Donnie came up with a great idea saying that if we're going to be doing this review, we have to go to your restaurant first.
Week 1.
Over the weekend, we went out to the restaurant and we were out there and we had Richie Battistoni cook us up a hot dog from Magoo's. And
the Uncle Jimmy and Cousin Donnie show, sponsored by the Beacon Tap and also Signature Transportation Group. We are here today at Papa Magoo's for our hot dog review. My cousin Donnie here, since I can't rate the place.
Yes.
This will be the first of very many people that we're going to be visiting around the Chicagoland area. So Donnie said it was only special to do today at Papa Magoo's to start it off.
The original hot dog review that we do has to be Papa Magoo's.
So Donnie, I'm going to have you take a bite.
All right, let's see. So we got pickles on. This is a Chicago style hot dog.
Yes.
Okay. So this was made by Richie Battistoni himself.
Yes.
Okay.
So you got to give me a overall view on the bread.
So there you go. There's a view of the piece of the hot dog here.
Yeah.
Bread is fine. Bread's good.
Bread is good.
Good seeds on the bread.
Okay. All right.
Okay,
Tell me what it is.
We'll try this.
I can't grade this one, Donnie. So you have to do this.
And I can't grade it badly.
Okay.
Or you'll beat me up.
Nah. We'll be fine. So overall taste?
Good. Good taste right away.
1 to 10. Where are we at?
Good taste right away. Toppings are good. Relish is nice.
Yeah.
I'd say this is a solid, like a 8-1 out of 10.
8-1. 8-1. Mark it down.
Pretty good hot dog.
Papa Magoo's in Shorewood. Come visit us. Thank you.
So Papa
you go.
Magoo's starts off the hot dog review with a 8.1 overall
Solid.
taste.
Very solid. Very solid. Jim, this is not to be offensive. I was shocked that you could get a good hot dog at Papa Magoo's.
Really?
And not that I doubted you at any point. It's just not a hot dog stand. So to see that, here's my challenge to you guys watching and people that were watching whenever. I want you to put in the comments you think the best hot dog is in Chicago. Because we need ideas for places to go to. I know we've been, in the area forever, but we would love some ideas from you guys to see where you guys want us to go and try famous.
We know 3 places. I know 3 places we're going to be attending. We're going to be attending Super Dogs. We're going to be attending Chickies over on LaGrange Road.
Yeah,
and Gene and Jude's.
Gene and Jude,
my favorite. Old stomping ground in my old neighborhood in Cicero, and it is a Henry's.
Henry's is great.
And so I haven't been to Henry's in probably 20 years.
Yeah.
I'm not kidding you. It's been a long
time. Still there.
Yeah, it is. So I think it's going to be awesome. So hopefully people will be able to comment on there, be able to get out there. Jimmy's on Grand is good. So that's another place Bruce Lee just mentioned. So we'll add that to the list. Okay. And we're going to get out there and we're going to review. So by next Wednesday, you and I will be hitting the land and we'll be out to review a hot dog. So where would you like to visit by next Wednesday, Don?
I don't know. I would like to try something a comment suggestion for sure. Jimmy's is good. Bruce said 35th Street by Sox Park. Brian Sloan said, "You think the hot dog is good? Try the meatballs." I witnessed it over the weekend. Richie was going nuts making meatballs, sweating profusely. I would like to try some stuff that people recommend for sure. So put in the comments where you want us to try and where you want us to go, and then we'll get up there.
Yeah, for sure. We're going to make it happen. I think we're going to do this all summer long.
It's fun.
It's going to be fun to do it, and hopefully we get a lot of these places that post our video on their page, and we're going to promote their business.
Sure.
So
love it.
Fat Johnny's just came in 35th by Sox Park. So a lot of opportunities coming in here, Donnie, for us. So we're going to have to write these down, and we're going to be out there next week visiting another hot dog stand. So Donnie, I don't know if you have anything else for the fans, but before we go tonight, I just wanted to say thank you. I think tonight's show was fantastic. I know it ran a little longer than normal, but you know what? When it's good material and good stuff being said, and Richie was absolutely fantastic.
It was awesome.
He was a great guest.
It was great. I mean, you said it best. When the material is there, the time you can't buy it. So great show tonight. Super happy with the product. We look forward to seeing you guys here very, very soon.
Yep. So really one last question. What is the name of a good slot game, Jimmy? Well, Wildlife is the one we always play. Right?
Anything presented by Excel Entertainment.
Yes, exactly. But what do you want to go ahead and give the guests for next Wednesday night? Have you confirmed?
No. I'm gonna set it up. I'll set it up during the week.
All right.
I can't give the guests yet.
I think it's gonna be pretty fun. It's pretty awesome.
It'll be awesome.
And it's a big guest.
It's big time.
Yeah. So this is awesome. But Donnie, you have a good week. For everyone out there, we appreciate all the support. The Uncle Jimmy, Cousin Donnie show sponsored by the Beacon Tap and now Signature Transportation Group. So thank you so much.
Cool.
Have a good one, guys. Peace.